It's a tightly knit group, it looks like. Good evening. My name is Councillor Shelley Carroll, and I'm the chair of the Budget Committee and this subcommittee. We have quorum, so I'd like to now call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. So we will begin the meeting in a good way by acknowledging that we're meeting in different locations today. The Budget Committee would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We'd also like to make, and I'll do this on our members' behalf, our African ancestral acknowledgement. Though I'm not a person of African descent, I am committed to continually acting in support of and in solidarity with Black communities seeking freedom and reparative justice, and in light of the history and ongoing legacy of slavery, and that continues to impact Black communities in Canada. As part of this commitment, we'd also like to acknowledge that not all people came to these lands as migrants and settlers. Specifically, I want to acknowledge those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. In support of the City of Toronto's ongoing efforts to confront anti-Black racism, I pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. So, folks, today's meeting is being held in person in the council chamber at North York Civic Centre. Members of the public who are registered to speak are either in the room with us, but also they could be attending virtually by video conference. This meeting is being live streamed, so you can find the link on the toronto.ca/council page. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act amongst our members? Seeing none, we can continue on with the meeting then. So today is a subcommittee of the Budget Committee. Councillor Lily Chang, Councillor Jamal Myers, and myself are members of one of two budget subcommittees that have been established to hear public presentations. Our colleagues, Councillor Gord Perks, Councillor Chris Moyes, and Councillor Amber Morley are meeting right now at City Hall and hearing public presentations on the budget. We have approximately 40 speakers down there to speak at our meetings across 3 sessions at North York Civic Centre. Another 96 will be speaking today at City Hall. So I want to thank everyone who's registered to speak publicly to the Budget Committee at either location. For those who are speaking, let's talk about how our process works. We have speakers in person and online, as I've mentioned. If you are online, the video conference host is going to activate your microphone, and you can turn on your video if you'd like when you speak to us. I'll call each name on the list in order, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak to the Budget Committee. After you speak, please stay with us. You can stay at the podium after you speak. If you're on virtual, stay on the line, and I'll ask members if they have any questions about your presentation. After any questions from the committee, you can stay and listen in the council chamber. And for those at home, you can continue to follow the meeting on YouTube. The clerk has also received emails and communications from the public about the 2026 budget. Those communications are being made available to members on our clerk's meeting portal. We call it the CMP. I encourage the public, if you're listening or watching today, to send comments to the Budget Committee throughout the budget process, not just today, but throughout the whole process. You can send us your input by emailing buc@toronto.ca. That's the public's opportunity to get in touch with all members of council before they vote February 10th. Today is the public's opportunity to speak to us directly about the budget. It's also an opportunity for us to consider your comments and input before we make our recommendations to the mayor. Exactly a week from Friday, well, actually, no, it's this Friday now, we'll be having what we call the budget wrap-up meeting, where we will make some advice finally based on what we've heard in these deputations and other factors, and then forward that on to the mayor. And then the mayor will bring the final budget to special council on February 10th for the final vote. We appreciate you participating in the budget process. That's a very important part of it. So let's start with our first speaker. What I'm going to do as we go through the list, I'm going to always mention 3 names at a time so that you'll know that your name is coming up. I also note that we're scheduled here to be here for the rest of the evening from 6 o'clock onwards, but I wouldn't call the list full yet. So if you've come to observe, but you would like to speak, we'd just like to know in the next half hour or so. And you can register if you haven't already by speaking to the clerk staff that are along the wall there. They can arrange if you want to add your name to the list. And then about a half an hour from now, I'll cut that off so that we have some idea of how many are on the list and when the meeting will be moving receipt of all your presentations. So that being said, let's get started with the first few. The order so far is we have Fabiano Macaulay, then we'll go to a virtual presentation from Candace Shang, and then Peter Bach from the Humber River Health Center. Is Fabiano ready to speak? Good evening. We're going to use, we're going to keep it at this podium so that we have the cameras trained on the one. Okay, so you're going to present on screen to us. That's a first for today in this this chamber. Thank you. I'll set your timer and you can go ahead.
The carbon budget by answering the question, does science support net zero? So last year, we spent almost $2 billion on reducing greenhouse gases. This year, you're proposing to spend $1.7 billion and $15 billion approximately over 10 years. This graph shows us 600 million years of temperature and CO2 data. The red line is temperature and CO2, and the blue line is CO2. When CO2 was high, temperature was low, and vice versa. In other words, there's no correlation between the two things. And the physics that applied millions of years ago still apply today. This one graph alone demolishes the argument for net zero, but there's more. Here we have 450,000 years of temperature data. The 5 red peaks represent interglacial periods, and the 4 valleys are glacial periods. Each glacial period is approximately 100,000 years long. You'll notice that while we're in the red box on the right side here, we're about 2 degrees cooler than previous interglacial periods, and CO2 was not a factor back then. The other thing to observe here is that we naturally cycle between cold and warm periods on the planet. It's been happening for at least 450,000 years, probably millions of years. This graph shows us 10,500 years of temperature data. The first thing that stands out is that there are quite a few fluctuations on their own, even though, once again, that CO2 was quite stable during this period. On the right side, we have the Minoan, Roman, and the medieval warm periods that were considerably warmer than we are today, even though CO2 was considerably lower than today. During the Little Ice Age, which you see in the bottom right-hand side there, lasted from about 1250 to about 1850, the carbon dioxide levels are actually higher than the previous warming period. So once again, the correlation between CO2 and temperature is simply not there. It's very weak. It gets even more interesting. So increases in temperature precede increases in CO2. Ice core data from Antarctica and more recent data collected from sea temperature and air temperature clearly demonstrate this. This is the exact opposite of the assumption underlying net zero. Net zero assumes the reverse of this, that CO2 is the primary driver of temperature. But the data tells us that that's not true. Glacier Bay, Alaska, on the Arctic Circle, approximately 110 kilometers of ice melted from 1760 to 1900, a massive volume. This is long before CO2 concentration started to go up with the second industrial revolution. Obviously, we can't blame CO2 for this. Something else is at work. What is that something else? Natural causes. Here we have a number of natural causes sorted by timescale. I won't go through each one of these, but the point of showing this is to emphasize that climate change is very complicated and it makes no sense at all, no scientific sense or no common sense to pretend to reduce climate change to one factor, CO2, as if somehow it's the control knob for climate. It simply doesn't make any sense because in reality, it's extremely complicated. Some facts about CO2. It is a mild greenhouse gas, mild. It is not pollution, and it is essential for life to exist. This is what net zero will avert globally by 2050, just 7/100ths of 1 degree Celsius. That's it. Why? Because CO2 is saturated. It's heavily saturated. Doesn't matter how much more we add to the atmosphere, it will make virtually no difference at all. This number represents Toronto's contribution to global warming per year. Stated as a fraction, that's 1/100,000ths of 1 degree Celsius per year of global warming. And we spent $2 billion on that last year, and the city now wants to spend $15 billion more on achieving this, while we have 15,000 homeless people on the streets and a shortfall of $1.34 billion. In my mind, this doesn't make any sense. This is how that number was calculated. If you multiply the numbers on the right side, you get 0.00001 degrees Celsius per year. That's how that number is calculated.
Mr. McCauley, I'll need you to wrap up. You're past the 5 minutes now.
Okay.
Sorry, you
Nope.
can't see the clock on the presentation, so lost track. You're well over the 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're
Okay.
wrap up.
So climate has always changed and it will always change. Although CO2 is a greenhouse gas, it is not the primary driver of temperature. Science doesn't support net zero. Therefore, Transform TO, the carbon budget, and the atmospheric fund should all be canceled. We'd save billions of dollars that could be directed to things like homelessness, housing, TTC, infrastructure, state of good repair, etc.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you so much. Okay. Okay. Our next deputation, we can sort that out because our next deputation is a virtual one, and it is from Candace Shang.
Hi.
Candace, there you are. We can see you. You go ahead.
Hey. Good evening, members of the Budget Committee. My name is Candace. I'm 13 years old, and this is my 3rd year speaking here as a young resident who cares deeply about how our city works. Over the past 3 years, I've spoken on animal services, the TTC, and today, budget transparency. One lesson keeps repeating. People can see the numbers, but they rarely see the results. We get spreadsheets, line items, percentages, but not a story behind them. And that gap erodes trust. Every budget cycle, I notice 2 patterns that make this worse. First, when departments present budgets, the message is almost always, we need more. Sometimes it's true, but residents rarely hear, how do we know the money already spent was used well? What improved because of it? Second, at public meetings, residents raise real concerns. This service isn't good enough, or this area is underfunded. These are valid, but often they're single-point issues, disconnected from the full picture. What was funded? What changed? What was delayed? And what outcomes were expected? That's why transparency matters. And I don't mean posting a document. I mean making it easy to understand the decisions, the trade-offs, and whether spending actually improved service. And this matters now more than ever. We've reduced deficit pressure from $1.8 billion in 2024 to $1.07 billion today. That didn't happen by accident. It reflects discipline, hard choices, and real effort across Toronto. But the next stretch will still be hard. The only way to keep residents united through tough choices is trust. Trust doesn't come from being told to be patient. It comes from being shown clearly and consistently what we chose, why we chose it, what we gave up, and what we achieved. So, my ask today is simple and practical. Strengthen transparency by changing how we build the budget and how we report progress. First, borrow an idea from modern budgeting. Start fresh each year with one question. What do we need to deliver for Torontonians and why? Not what did we spend last year, but what outcomes matter most. Second, report the budget the way residents can actually follow it. Through clear goals, regular updates, not just spending to date, but results to date. What we promised, what has been delivered, what isn't working yet, and what will be adjusted. If we connect dollar to goals and goals to visible progress, people won't just understand the budget, they'll support it. Because when residents can see the work behind the numbers, the choices made, the trade-offs taken, they won't just accept the budget, they'll stand beside it. And that's how Toronto moves forward, together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Candace. So are there any questions of the deputant? So Candace, I don't know if I've been through this before, but I want to ask it. I don't know if I've ever talked to you about how we do present the budget in our website, how we present each division. I know that you look into that, but have you ever tried to get residents to take a look at those notes?
I don't think
Your neighbors, your family. It's challenging to get people to sit down and have a look. But in fact, many of the things that you raise are in there. We sometimes speed past them in reading the notes to get to the numbers as counselors, but every budget note for each division, and like the police or transportation or whatever it is, starts with how are we doing? What did we do in 2025? What were the things that were achieved is over on the right-hand side. So we sort of tell the story of how we do last year, and then here's what we're doing this year. And then after that, where you see key challenges and risks and key cost drivers in this year's budget, it sort of paints the picture of what, if anything, will change this year and what sort of things they'll be looking to do. So we sort of do try to tell it in that story. Our challenge is for people starting from scratch, it would take you almost a year to read through it all. We learned to read it fast track because we have to do it every year, but the story's in there. The police is a good example, actually. It talks about the investment in officers the year before, and then it talks about the major crime indicators and the response times that have all improved. And so it sort of tells the story of why we're doing what we're doing. It's hard to get people to read it, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll keep trying. We'll keep trying to be better communicators, but I do want to thank you for your presentation. We'll look forward to next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. We'll move on to the next person on the list. I have Peter Bach next on the list, who's at the podium now. Then I have Josephine Gray, who will be virtual, and Elizabeth Jassam, so they can get ready online for that. Mr. Bach.
Press that. Chair Carroll, good evening.
Yes.
Councillors,
Well,
you guys can hear me?
yes.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'd like to, I'm here to solicit some budget to be spent on motivating citizens to respect the dog leashing bylaws. I don't know if you are dog owners. If you are, then this will hopefully resonate with you. Just a little background as to myself and my wife and our family. We have 2 dogs. This is Charlie, one of them, and he's a therapy dog. My wife and Charlie do a lot of therapy work at Bloorview and Bellwood and many other places. And they walk down in Serena Gandhi Park and Sunnybrook Park every day. And so the point of that is to say that we have firsthand experience of what is going on in our ravines and parks with off-leash dogs. And The city is very well aware of this. There's plenty of press out there, and even the city itself has quite a lot on its website about pet owners letting their dogs off leash. These are very dramatic incidents. They aren't, thankfully, not too much of this is going on, but when they do happen, it is very unfortunate and not pleasant at all. Your website and your efforts at trying to stem the impacts of owners letting their dogs off leash is certainly, you guys are very active in that. Nonetheless, what is going on in the ravines is not the really traumatic things, but all the lesser ones that don't get noticed. And you'll see at the top there, it's dogs running around, jumping into parties of children, bumping into people, running up to people who are afraid of dogs. There's quite a lot of this going on, and it is impacting the residents and citizens who want to walk peacefully and safely in these ravines. So the gap is not the fact that you have good policy, but it's really the implementation of preventative safety measures. And today, what I'd really ask is whether we could invest a little bit more in trying to drive citizen behavior in the right direction. And you do have signs. This is one of your signs that we see in the parks. Nice, but not necessarily impactful. And research definitely shows that with good signage, you can actually make a difference. And you do have studies where putting those signs in parks and other environmental areas can actually lead to good impact. And in fact, you have a great sign. This is yours. We think this is fantastic, but it's not deployed in all places where it would have greater impact, which is at the entrance to the parks, in the parks themselves. We don't see them there. And yet that is a wonderful attempt at really driving behavior. So the ask here is really, can we see more of these signs deployed in the right spots? The other thing is, we all know, I think you well know, that some degree of enforcement by bylaw officers would make an impact. Having citizens know that they could get fined is better than none at all. It doesn't have to be a huge enforcement, but just some of it. So the suggestion here is maybe the city would be willing to try some of this, see if it has an impact, pick on some areas where there is a high concentration of dogs. We happen to live in an area where on your map it's blue. So some of the parks where this could be done would be on the page there: Cedar Vale, Evergreen Brickworks, and Serena Gundy. So that's really all we're asking for. And we think that, you know, this is beginning to escalate to a point where there's quite a lot of activity amongst citizens on Facebook and other social media to try to get people to be respectful and put their dogs on leashes. That's the request that we have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of the deputant? And the sign you showed, is that a sign or an ad campaign?
No, that was a sign, and that sign is put up in bus shelters, I think.
Oh, okay, okay.
But not so many dogs in bus shelters off leash, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So you're advocating something of that sort of high design quality be in the places where they tend to be.
Correct.
Those parks, there are some dog owners, and I'm a dog owner myself, although our dog passed away and has not been replaced yet. Still waiting on that. But I sometimes find that people, they think it proves that they're a good dog owner because look how good my dog's being while he's off leash. And you're like, no, you're actually proving you're a bad dog owner.
That's right. And
Yeah.
that's why that sign is so good and so impactful.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that input. That is food for thought. As budget committee, we can't sort of make new policy and design new things, but definitely taking it back. You're quite right. Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
for your attention.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have Josephine Gray next, then Elizabeth Jassam, and then Zoe Nicolaitis. Is Josephine ready online? Oh, she withdrew. Yeah, yeah. I knew you'd be surprised to hear that. And Elizabeth as well is not shown up. Oh, you're in person, right? Okay, yes. Okay. No, you can present to us right here, but if you have it in writing as well, we can make sure that. Oh, okay. Go ahead then.
Can we connect this? How I can connect this? You'll be able to help with it. Speaking, just turn
You have a PowerPoint as well. You're getting a lot of audio visuals tonight. Yeah. Ah, there you go. Okay. I'll start your clock now then. Okay.
Thank you. I decided to do very unusual presentation today from the end to the first actually slide. So this is the last one slide because I understand that mostly people are having a culmination of attention at the end. So I'm starting from the end because this is the most important. My name is Elizabeth Jassen, and I would like to wish all of you here and across the city Happy New Year. We are meeting today 20th of January, but it's good that we are meeting at all. Traffic is insane on Shepherd, but we made it. So here we are. We did tremendous work with community when we met in 2019 for 6 years, and I will show you at the bottom in a moment. We actually developed phenomenal trust. I can say about myself as a professional, I come from architecture, design, urban design, planning on 3 continents. I'm here, proud Canadian citizen for 37 years. So work all my life, and I would like to finish my life with rejections that I didn't try to do better for everyone. So I'm speeding now to the beginning. So we met, as I said, in 2019 with citizens extremely frustrated in Ward 6 that nothing is done for older adults and, seniors. And this is what we are feeling now after 6 years again, that still is not enough done what we would like to see to be done. But we are much stronger because we did things and they are proven, recorded. So we have really weapon in our hands. So here we are. And I thought that when I met community members, Josefina is with us here. She trusted us from the beginning. That my focus will be mostly on organizing a team professionals to help the community. But we went a little bit obviously offside. So we organize ourselves as York Center Senior Steering Committee. And we went to the, as you can see, big town hall where we met, actually, we had a minister, Tusi, I believe, or Tassi from Hamilton, responsible for seniors portfolio. And she promised us that absolutely everything will do. This was 2018, November 18th. So we start our working, not waiting for government, to do something for us. So this is our flyer, there's our meetings, this is who we are, you know, and this is the area, Downsview area. We call this now, after many years, Arbo District. So this is where we are. Obviously, here in a moment, I'm going to show you that obviously we started 2 champions, but we have several people ready to help us, and they give it up after a while when they see that we are working, but we are not having any results. So this is across, you know, I also manage for almost 8 years in Toronto Housing, you know, portfolio for accessibility, where I built standards across TCHC, and my standards developed with obviously committees of tenants were actually taken by many councillors to Waterfront Toronto, and they were acknowledged at that time, this was 15 years ago maybe, or 12 years ago, as a best city accessible standards developed, they were taken to Waterfront. So here we are. So we had several meetings, you know, first our first seniors summit was April 7th, 2019. And as you can see, lots of interest. Everyone was here. And so we developed our first slide presentation. And after more than a year studying community needs, not only wants, but real needs, we were able to focus that village is the answer. The word village, seniors village. Now we may call maybe differently, but because I work with TCHC, so I knew that to address our politicians, we need to kind of put writing into the proper drawer.
Sorry,
here
but you're, just to let you know, you're getting very close to the
Yeah.
5 minutes, so if we could sort of form the ask.
Yeah. Here is the village. We developed concept. Concept was approved in 2022, first time in July 8. So this was our village. We studied everything. We had meetings with Minister Cho in 2021. Then, you know, we have another summit, and then we went even to RINA. We promote and wanted to RINA to have in our village. And, you know, RINA didn't end up. And I would like to tell you that obviously I'm very satisfied and happy and proud that I received last December from our minister a big, nice medal, coronation medal for contribution to Ontario. But last sentence, we need your help. And now we register our village as Arbos Seniors Health Village. We would like to partner with the city because what we realized after this many years that we cannot really spread our work without any funds. So we will be asking you for funds. And that's why I ask you to come 30th of June to us. Councillor Lily, I love you and I'm having you actually on my kind of radar. So please come. I can send you an invitation to discuss what we and how we can serve seniors and older adults across. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we look forward to that. If you forward those invitations, we'll have a look. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That's it? Questions?
Yeah. No questions.
Why
Thank you.
not?
Well, it's a wait and see situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next I have Zoe Nicolaitis, then Housen Chong, and then Josie Casiato. Is Zoe here or virtual? Oh, wonderful. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Is the microphone still on?
I think
Yeah,
so. There's
sounds
a red
like it.
light.
Yeah, you're
okay.
good.
Hi, everyone.
Okay.
My name is Zoe Nicolaitis, and I am a graduate student at University of Toronto, as well as a member of TTC Riders. I don't have a fancy presentation. I'm sorry, so you're going to have to stick with just my voice. But yeah, I want to speak in favor of the fare freezing for TTC in the budget, as well as fare capping. I think fare capping is a much more logical way of structuring fare for public transit. So good work. However, I will say that I think post-secondary students have been completely forgotten about. In fact, like neglected in the way that the faring is structured right now. like post-secondary students, 20 years and older, most of us earn $0 and are paying thousands in tuition. Some of us are lucky to get some funding. I do as a graduate student, but it's below the poverty line and I'm still paying thousands in tuition. So then on top of that, to pay at the same amount as adults who are working full time, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year sometimes is insane. Like it's, yeah, very unsustainable. And fare capping is actually going to be more expensive for us. So we get to pick between an expensive monthly pass or we can fare cap, which is sweet, but then we end up paying $30 more. Yeah, so it kind of felt like City Council forgot about us completely, which is very unfortunate because it's already a very stressful time of life. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question. So can you explain to me the differential? You're saying $30 more, but I know that the initial year fare capping was set at the same trip multiple as the monthly pass. So how does it work out to $30 more? That's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, it's because the monthly pass, there is a post-secondary monthly pass for any age that's
Oh.
post-secondary, and it's around $128. But we pay for one fare, single fare, $330, the same as adults.
Right.
With fare capping, it'll be 47 trips as well, which is like $157.
Right. It's a long time since I bought a monthly pass, so I forgot that there is the rate on that monthly pass.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, fortunately, we have the chair of the TTC here, and you just earned your
Yeah.
deputation. So stay tuned. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And the next one is House and Chong. Good evening.
Okay, great. Hi,
There you go.
my name's Hao Sen. I'm the climate campaigner of Toronto Environmental Alliance. I'm actually from Etobicoke, but I live downtown and I love like seeing the various different parts of the city. This is my first time in this room, which is great. Yeah, I wanted to note that Toronto Environmental Alliance is actually quite pleased to see the emphasis on affordability in this budget. It's not everything that we need. The city needs to be reducing about 1 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions a year. But this budget does find about 200,000 tons per year of reductions, which is getting there. We do know that like as time goes on, we'll likely get larger and larger numbers. So those are some challenges that we have. We're also pleased to see that there's a lot of work on climate resiliency in this budget. So in particular, we're pleased to see the expansion of the indoor cooling program that's going to install over 1,000 indoor cooling units for Torontonians who are most vulnerable to extreme heat. And then we also hope that the councillors here will support a maximum heat bylaw that we're expecting to come to council in May. We're also pleased to see the expansion of stormwater management measures. Climate change is increasing severe flooding events in the city. And we're also very pleased to see that there's a little bit more money for community climate grants as well, which is great. One of the interesting things about climate change is that I think there's a lot of confusion amongst the general public, partly because they've been kind of fooled when they go to the store that if you want to get something green, you have to pay a little bit of extra money. The reality is there's a lot of different climate activities and climate measures that actually save money and increase affordability. That includes things like the fare cap, which we very much support on the TTC, as well as the freezing of the fares. The Transform TO 2040 plan actually calls for fares to eventually be free by the year 2040. And so this budget is another good step that will decouple the increase of the actual TTC service with the cost of fares. And we think that's a very, very positive thing, and that needs to continue onwards as time goes on. Yeah, that's also really important because the affordability piece, like as somebody who grew up in Etobicoke, I completely get what it's like living in a place that's in their suburb, and providing these services, providing things like bike lanes and better pedestrianization would mean the difference between a family like I grew up in needing to own like one car versus needing to afford 2 or 3 cars, which is a significant increase in monthly fees and monthly costs. And so continuing to provide these services throughout the city is really, really important. I know a lot of people say like no cars at all, but like as somebody who regularly has to go see my mom still in Etobicoke, it is sometimes a necessity, and having the TTC there as a backup for when my partner sometimes needs to take the car, I can take the TTC and see my mom that way too. And that's really, really beneficial for me personally and for a lot of other people that I know as well. The other thing as well I wanted to kind of focus on is the need over the next year to really start looking into how do we actually decarbonize buildings in this city. I know that there is a potential a report coming on buildings emissions performance standards in 2027, which we fought very hard for, and thank you very much for helping us with that and bringing that back to council. But in addition to that, we are going to need financial instruments, make it easier for people to get things like good funds and retrofits, in addition to the retrofit funding the city already provides. And we also know that there's no reality where the city by itself actually has the money to do that on its own. And so we really encourage, and we ourselves will be doing a lot more advocacy at the other levels of government over the next year to really try to bring more of this financing and funding to make it more affordable for people to heat and cool their own homes through things like retrofit programs as well. But we are going to need some help from the city to like build these financial instruments and to build these containers for larger chunks of revenue down the road, larger chunks of funding and financing down the road from the federal government and from potentially from things like pension funds and so on and so forth. Great.
Okay. Are there questions of the deputy? I may have one online. I see Councillor Sachs has joined us. Councillor Sachs, did you have questions of the Toronto Environmental Alliance?
Well, I did want to ask Howson whether there was anything else you wanted to say that you hadn't had time for.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, what is the main thing? We do need to move faster. And not only do we need to move faster, I think we can also learn from the history that Canada historically, especially when we look at the history in the 1980s and 90s, was leading the global climate fight. And so I know there can be this feeling that, well, we're just Toronto and we might not be able to have a significant impact. Toronto is what? Toronto is the hub of a part of the country that's 50% of Ontario's GDP and 20%, 1/5 of Canada's GDP, right? What we do here, for example, if we are successful in decarbonizing all of our buildings in Toronto, that will spread across Southern Ontario, right? And it's going to make a significant impact. And we do know that historically, if you look up like what this is like, you know, the Brian Mulroney years. Brian Mulroney was named one of the greenest prime minister in Canada, and that was done. He was named that by Elizabeth May, who was the Green Party. It was on her board.
Howson, to be more focused, we're in a year where with a really, really tough budget, constrained, of course, by the very low property tax increase, among many other things. What is the single most effective thing we can do with a modest amount of money that you think would really make a difference? And if you don't know right now,
tough to say.
home and write us.
Yeah, I can actually, I can write you. I don't have a good sense as to what the most effective thing would be right now, because we have to balance a bunch of things. You have to balance the cutting of emissions,
We know.
but also
You don't have to tell us that. We know.
protecting the people, right?
Right.
So yeah, so I'm happy to look into it a little bit more, and I'm happy to write something, and I believe the decision will be made this Friday. Is that correct?
Well, budget committee makes.
That's right.
wrap up. because
recommendations.
Still the
Yeah,
mayor's
okay.
process.
The mayor
Yeah,
decides.
so we can look into it, and we can, or we haven't submitted our letter yet, and we're happy to write something
Okay.
and say like what a relative small amount
Okay,
might be able to do.
So
and
one more
communicate that to the
question
city.
then.
Sure.
Jack Gibbons and his group have been really emphasizing putting some money into getting a person to be responsible for climate communications and to be encouraging people to do things like sign up for peak perks. If that's your, is that something you think would be particularly effective and worth doing?
I do think better communications is better. I don't know for a fact whether or not a specific person would be the best idea or whether or not that experience already exists within staff. I just haven't done that analysis yet. So whether or not that money is better spent on staff or whether or not that money is better spent on just on the communications piece, whether or not that money is better spent on staff or whether or not that money is better spent on actually like doing things like buying advertising, I just
Yeah.
don't have the correct answer for that. But I'm happy to look into that a little bit more if that interests the committee.
Do it fast. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I just have a couple myself, because I know you've been here all evening, Allison. We had a presentation earlier, talking about the dog issue, but, and I'm wondering if you think maybe the same is true in terms of things where we're trying to get people to take up on places where we're financing retrofits and heat pumps and things like that and helping people, get this work done. But our outreach, our signage, our promotions on this have a very city institutional light blue and white sort of blandness to them that people ignore. And we were just shown when you really push the boat out and do a really dynamic ad campaign, that makes people stop and take notice. The dog off leash conversation. Should we be doing a similar thing in some of the environmental perks where we're doing so that it hits people digitally?
Yeah, I think it can, right? So like some of the things that I've been noticing on my like social media feeds, for example, are stories of particular people, right? So
Right.
city staff have been doing a good job talking about, for example, on the housing file, how the housing file has actually positively affected individual people.
Right.
So what the climate communications studies do say is that it is a lot of times those personal connections, those personal stories that bring people on board. So for example, the biggest indicator, the strongest indicator, the strongest predictor of you putting solar panels on your house is that your neighbors also have solar panels on their house, right?
Yeah.
So they actually see it. And so being able to see that, and this is one of the reasons why I'm not sure whether or not the best idea here is to actually hire a specific person or to spend money
Yeah.
on the ads, because it sounds as if there is some experience within city communications to do some of these positive ways of contacting people. So I just haven't done that analysis. And then like on occasion, like we don't have much. The Toronto Environmental Alliance sometimes does ads. We don't have a lot of money for
Right,
ads. And so,
right.
so oftentimes it's our preference is to spend money on like actually getting the stuff out rather than
Yeah.
like hiring somebody else or something like that. So it kind of really depends on that case.
And one other question, because it sounds like when you're saying, the Alliance hasn't agreed enough, the letter's not written yet, and that's to come. And I'm wondering if you're struggling with what we're struggling. That's a big chart. It was from an earlier deputation. Here's what you're spending on the carbon projects this year. It's 1.6 billion, but it's actually spread out
That's right.
across so many capital projects that are all things we have to do anyway. We just happen to be doing them in a way that's actually going to reduce carbon. We have to do basement flooding because people are tired of their basements getting flooded. But oh, by the way, it also happens to be climate change, extreme weather adaptation, and so we're getting her done, and it counts. And all though that sort of thing has made it hard to speak to people in a way that proves we're doing the work. Is Toronto Environmental Alliance sort of at the same juncture where there now are a lot of things going on and you don't have as much argument about whether or not they need to be done, but tracking them and then telling the story is a challenge for us. So tracking it and figuring out what to ask for next. It sounds like the Toronto Environmental Alliance is struggling with that same thing.
To a certain extent, like one of the things that I tell young people when they ask me to speak and talk about my experience, because I've been at this for 25 years.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things that I tell them is my job when I first started this 25 years ago was to tell people climate change existed, right?
Yeah,
What we are now, we have a benefit of now several decades of work. There's a lot of work being done within the city, which is extremely positive. Again, it's not fast enough for us to actually get to our 2040 goals, and we understand
Right.
the political challenges there and all that type of stuff, so we get that. But to a certain extent, it is that is like how you're describing the carbon budget. The carbon budget is actually a pretty huge deal. I still have some issues with how it's done, but the fact that all the city divisions are now feeding into environment, climate,
Right.
forestry's carbon budget process every single year is very, very positive. And definitely, I think like through a little bit more work with staff, there's possible ways of changing, but those are all technical issues and technical conversations, right?
right.
In terms of the actual political process of like, what do we need to do next? Yeah, like one of the things that we are seeing with both the federal and provincial governments, a pullback of climate commitments.
Yeah.
And so we are looking at how, like the Toronto Environmental Alliance is looking at like, well, like how do we support the city in the work that we need to do? How do we push the city a little bit more to move a bit faster? And then also making sure that other levels of government contribute the money that they need to contribute as well, and contribute the resources, because the city can't do it on its own
Right.
at all, right? So those are the types of things that we're thinking about in the Toronto Environmentalist Alliance right now. We are at a very interesting political space in terms of climate politics, and I wish I had all the answers.
Oh, no,
I don't
we're
at this
putting
point.
you on the spot with that tonight. Well, thank you so much. I'm taking note of all of that, and we look forward if there is a written from the T folks, we're happy to receive it.
Great.
To add to communications. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay. So the councillors I have left, is Josephine Gray planning on deputing, or she's not deputing? Do we know, Joseph? Oh, okay. Josephine Gray from Oasis Food Hub, not before us. Okay. And then I have Josie Casciato. Hello.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Josie. I am on the board of directors of a seniors associations registered under the name of Arbo Seniors Association. We reach out to our community through many activities sponsored by the New Horizon for Seniors program. The community worked very close with Elizabeth Jason for the village in Arbo district. Our community has been informed step by step and was invited to participate in person to create a vision for the Arbo district. A lot of things, though, went wrong too. And we suggest some things maybe we can do better. The first thing is, how can we speed up the process? Get anything done in the city of Toronto was like pulling teeth. We went maybe to 20 meetings with Jane Pasternak, our counselor, and we don't blame anybody. We just blame the process. I think it's too slow. Everything changed, though, in the meantime, and the economy, it changed too, and things, they're not the same as before. This project has been approved by Canada Land Corporation, the senior city planner, the councillors, the community at large, and many interest service providers for seniors. In all this, a lot of time was wasted from everybody. And then we come that the city higher our tax, because it's too much time wasted everywhere for what we understood. the plan for the senior village was done and approved. Please, what are we asking? Don't allow the elected official that they are elected after, a new election comes, a new person comes. Don't allow to destroy what the community vision and what the community created. Then we start all over, and money, it's all the problem of everything. Our community is asking for something we need. We need an affordable seniors village. Now, why we lose trust? Thousands of people in York Center, they lost trust. What we see and feel every day is incompetence, lack of transparency, incapability of handling complex issues, such affordable seniors housing, affordable housing in general, the cost of living, lack of maintenance of our streets and parks, and we can go on and on with our list. I just want to say that our street and park is not well maintained. That's one point I want to make now, because during your budget, I didn't hear that one penny spent it for the maintenance of our street and our parks. And we had a very, very, difficult time in Dunsview last summer in our parks. We just want to say the work, it's simply not done. It's maybe because there is no supervision of those people who work in the parks and recreation. I just hear this every day, and we've been doing this for so many years, and we just hope that someone will listen finally. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputy? I don't see any questions, but we'll take all of this under consideration and talk amongst the North York area people to get a sense of where it is. I can tell you, hopefully one bright spot is that this now comes under the umbrella of the new corporation that the federal government has set up, the Build Canada Homes Initiative. They made a decision which we think is kind of a smart one. The CEO of that company is a former city councillor who was our housing advocate. And so she does understand our process. If there are log jams slowing this down inside our process, we now have a federal partner in Anna Bailao, who's going to be the CEO of Build Canada Homes, who, if we can break those log jams and get things moving, they chose a person who just might be able to do that with a project this size in Toronto. So we're all fingers crossed.
The work is done. We
Yeah.
just need to,
Well, I
to start.
understand there are a lot of site plan issues still. The work is done to get it approved and get the agreement that there will be that, but I understand there are a lot of site plan issues, and that sometimes is what stops the shovel from actually getting in the ground on things. But we do have a new partner in Build Canada Homes that I think we can maybe get things rolling on. So stay tuned. But I'll definitely let the local councillor know that we heard
We
the step.
won't give up.
Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you. I don't see any other speakers. Are there any other additions? Okay, I don't see any other speakers. I want to thank all those in attendance. We have a motion to move to receive all these presentations. Councillor Myers, do you want to move this motion?
That the Budget Committee receive the public presentations on the 2026 capital and operating budgets for information.
All in favor? Seeing no opposed, that is carried. And so we're adjourning for now. And our next stop is our subcommittee session in Scarborough. You're gonna host us. Okay. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. Thank you.